Hi, my name is Mark Stallard and welcome to Little Green Man. Today I'm going to talk about the old-fashioned tax cut trick, and that's when a political party promises you a tax break if you vote for them. Because tax breaks are wonderful, yay, riches will be raining down on us, we'll be able to go on cruises, and no we won't, because guess what? Guess what? You probably guessed it from the title. It's a trick! Don't fall for it! But specifically I'm going to be talking about the PST cut that were promised by the Progressive Conservatives of Manitoba in the last general election. We haven't received it yet, but there's no doubt in my mind that it's going to happen. And it's really what the tax cut was is we're paying 8% PST now, and we're going to be paying 7%. Now we're already paying 5% on top of that to the federal government, but now we'll be reducing the amount we pay for the provincial government by a little bit less. And it's a consumption tax, so whatever you buy, you pay a little bit extra, and a little bit extra goes to the various areas of government. So does a 1% tax cut on what you purchase make that much difference? Is it really worth it? Well, that's the point of this video. Is it really worth it? So let's look at this can of beans. In Safeway, it costs about $1. Let's say it costs exactly $1, just for sake of argument. It just makes the math a little bit easier. So $1, 100 pennies, okay? And this one can of beans was, oh my God, is that pork and beans? That's disgusting. I hate pork and beans are gross. Who can eat this stuff? Oh, that's going to stay sealed for a long time, I can tell you. Anyhow, is it worth it? So if you buy a can of beans right now, you pay 13%, like I said, 5% goes to the 5% go to the federal government, 8% currently go to the provincial government. That's 13%. $1 of beans will cost you $1.13 right now. After the tax break, that will cost you $1.12. You'll save 1 penny on a $1 can of beans, but you still got to pay the other 12 cents in tax. So it's okay, it's a little bit of money. A little bit of money is good. So what do you save in that? Well, you save about 1 penny. 1 penny, that's all you're going to save. Now, a penny is so incredibly worthless right now that the Canadian government doesn't even mint it. It's a worthless coin, and in order to get a penny back, there's really no point. And in fact, I couldn't even find a penny for this demonstration, which is why I used a nickel. But you can get one of these if you buy 5 of these. See that? I can't work that in. That's clever, wasn't it? Well, so we go from the 1% cost to the other 1 penny back. Now, is that really worth it to your family? Well, you're not actually getting 1% back. I mean, there's a feel that, well, I'm getting 1% off my can of beans, but you're not actually, because you're still paying the tax on top. It's the difference, though, not between $1 and 99 cents. It's a difference between $1.13 and $1.12, which is 0.885%. See, this guy knows what he's talking about. It's less than 1% that you'll be saving overall on what you spend. So is that really great? Well, how does that work in the real world? Well, in the real world, you'll be spending, the average Canadian family will spend somewhere in the region of about $100 a month. Sorry, $100 a week, on groceries. It's close to about $115, something along those lines, 110, 115. I'm just going to round it down just because the math's a little bit easier. So it's about $100 a week. So if you spend $100 at Safeway, then, for instance, then you'll be spending actually $113 because you've got to pay that tax. After the event, after the big event where you save all this money on your tax break, you'll be paying $112. That's $1. That's nothing to be sneezed at. That's good. So what can you do for $1? Well, you can, I'm not really sure what you can buy for $1. A donut, maybe? A coffee. You could buy a coffee at Tim Hortons. A large coffee costs $2, so no, you can't do that either. 2 weeks of groceries. If you have 2 weeks of groceries, you spend $200, you'll get $100 back. That's $2 you get. You can go to Tim's and you can get yourself a large coffee. Except, no, you can't, because there's tax on top of that, and you've got to spend a bit more. Anyhow, right. And there's a reason why I'll say you can't later, because something's going to happen down the road. That means that price is going to go up a little bit, probably anyway. So in order for you to get your free Tim's, though, if you want to think of it that way, is that you've got to spend $224, not 200, See, not sounding so good, is it? And let's face it, I mean, everybody wants to spend, everyone loves Tim's. I mean, it's one of the greatest Canadian institutions. Oh, wait, they were bought out by Burger King just a few years ago, weren't they? A great American company. No, wait a minute, it wasn't Burger King. Oh, that's not good, is it? Yeah, a little bit animated there, aren't I? Well, that's worth a laugh. And they're not just an American company, it's actually owned by a Brazilian company. So Tim's is the best Brazilian coffee you can buy at your local street corner. Anyhow, interesting, isn't it? Now, but the question is, will you really get in? So it's still, you got $2 on 2 weeks of groceries. It's still good. And if you spend more, I mean, some families are going to spend more than that. Some are going to spend less. Maybe you're going to buy a car. You're going to, maybe it'll be worth it for you. But will you really have a chance ever to enjoy it? Well, let's look at that. Well, the chances are, in 2006, we've got some precedent here that suggests you're probably not going to enjoy any of that 1% tax break. You may not even get your 26 extra Tim Hortons coffees a year. Now, in 2006, Stephen Harper reduced the GST, that's the Goods and Services Tax, which is the consumption tax that we pay here in Manitoba. They reduced it by 2%, and that actually worked out that prices didn't actually come down by 2%. Many of them did, but there were lots of merchants and service providers that actually bumped their prices up 2% to fill that 2% void, because it's a very simple pro that they knew you were prepared to pay that extra 2%. So the chances are, if that 1%, or rather when, I don't no doubt that it will be in place, but when that 1% PST goes down, goods and services providers are going to put their prices up a penny, or at least enough to fill that void. So you're probably not even going to notice it at all anyway. So there's another thing as well, is that we talk about conservatives, and this is usually a trick almost exclusively by a conservative trick to get you to vote for them. But what it meant, and what it meant to Stephen Harper when he dropped that GST by 2%, it was a loss of about $14 billion a year. And then when you've got conservatives that insist that we have to balance the budget and you can be careful what you're spending, it seems not just ironic but hypocritical. Now, if we just kind of do the math on that a little bit, and you can kind of see that if you divide that by the provinces and territories of Manitoba and adjust a little bit for population, we can estimate, I think fairly accurately, or at least within a reasonable margin of error, that the provincial government is going to lose about $500 million in revenue. And then when the Progressive Conservatives got into power by arguing how badly the NDP had done in their spending, and we have to pay off this debt, but they cut revenue. This is insanity, and it's hypocritical. Why, when you're trying to pay off debt, would you cut revenue? Well, who would do that? This obviously has nothing to do with balancing the budget. There's probably something else involved. And so you kind of got to wonder really what the motivation is. But now there's one thing that the Conservatives will say when anyone else suggests, well, maybe we should raise minimum wage, or maybe we should help the poor, maybe we should do something good for people that are not rich people. They will say, how are you going to pay for that? But never, ever, 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 when they talk about tax cuts, do they ever consider or even say out loud how they're going to pay for it. So how did the provincial government how are the provincial government or the Progressive Conservatives of Manitoba, how are they going to pay for it? Well, they've already started. We had 6 emergency rooms in Winnipeg. Now we've only got 3. 3. They've cut them in half, and all for 1%, all for your 1 Timmy's every 2 weeks throughout the year. So 26 Timmy's cost you 3 emergency rooms. Now, was it really worth it? Well, not to you, and not to me really, because I think the emergency rooms are essential in a city of the size of Winnipeg. But, well, yeah. But corporations and the rich people that own them love tax breaks because it doesn't matter where they come from, because somehow they're going to make money on it. Now with the PST, they can bump up their bottom end. They can say, well, we can raise our prices by a little bit because we know people are going to pay more. If it's income tax, well, that's great because then they can save money on. They can lower wages for people because they know people are going to work for more. That particularly PST and consumption taxes, rich corporations and the rich people that own them don't spend very much relative to their salary. Now, so they can actually put all that money that they would have spent and that they're not going to spend, and they can save it. And so tax breaks are really good, particularly from an income tax, and not so much from a PST. It's not that great for them. But if you're not paying taxes on your income, and if you're not paying taxes elsewhere, they can save it. So for me and you, we go to grocery, we get groceries once a week, we say $1. They go out and rich people, maybe they'll go out and buy a $1,000 car. $1,000, $100,000 car, and they can get $1,000 savings in that PST car. So it works for them. If you make big purchases, if you're making little purchases, it'll make almost no difference whatsoever. And what do they care if hospitals are getting cut? If we're not going to be looking after the old people, we're not going to look after the mentally ill. If we're not going to take care of, if we're going to cut in the police service, if we're going to just cut all those things that are necessary to keep a society functioning, we need those as ordinary working people. But corporations have as much money as they want, and the rich people that own them have all that money, and it's almost never ending that pours in from those successful corporations because they can afford private healthcare. They can afford they can afford everything that we rely on, that we have to work together. We pull our money together in taxes to get these services that we could not possibly afford on the private market. So we do it ourselves through government. So the question then really is that there's lots you're going to lose from this tax break. 1%. 1 Tim's every week. Sorry, 1 Tim's every 2 weeks, not even 1 Tim's every week. And you're going to lose a lot. But at least you can rest assured that the Walmart executives, when they bump their prices up, can have a few more pennies in their pocket. And we can drive a few more miles to get to the nearest emergency room. Yeah, it's an old-fashioned tax cut trick. It's old-fashioned. They've been doing this for decades. And somehow getting away with it. Little green man.